Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is SportsIQ with Larry Smith.
Oh my goodness, SportsIQ, Larry Smith. What a way to finish out the weekend. We have got, listen, I don't know what you have planned, but if you're just like stepping in for a moment or something, you need to make sure you stick around. We have Ben Garrett in a couple of minutes talking Ole Miss football. Remember the whole thing about with Lane Kiffin? He's the guy that asked the question. So we're going to talk about that here in a minute. And then later, come back on the show, a friend of the show, Henry Oelhafen with the Vanderbilt Hustler. The stuff happening with the Commodores right now in football and basketball, Heisman, CFP talk, 13th game conversation, all that. So we got two great guests coming up as we get ready for this big weekend. And speaking of, a little different here for this show to end the week. Remember, by the way, first off, Sunday is December 7th. And so Sunday, exactly 84 years ago that the United States was thrust into World War II with the bombing of Pearl Harbor. If you know a veteran, please remember to stop and say thanks on that day. Okay, second, let's get ready for your weekend ahead. First, the shopping list. Make sure you got your chips and dips, your snacks, whatever you like. Dips ready. Salsa, some guac maybe. I'm a big cheese dip guy. Like I go buy like the thing and, scoop it into a bowl and get my chips, whatever. I always get the bite size. Just me. Call me weird. That's fine. Whatever you like. Whatever. Listen, your jam. You do that. Make sure the drinks are nice and cold. Everything I'm about to run down here because you might want to run out and get that extra TV or two for the man cave. Producer Tony and I were just talking about our wish list in 2026 in terms of what we would like to see in our man caves to get ready for this, because this kind of sports schedule is what I've been thinking about. I know Tony has too, for the past couple of decades. What if you had this? Folks, it is here. Let's start with college football. Friday night, North Texas taking on Tulane in the American Athletic Conference final. Both head coaches, Eric Morris and Jen Sumrall, are leaving their respective schools after the season. These two may be battling for that group of 5 spot in the college football playoff. That's Friday night, 8 o'clock, ABC. Saturday night, BYU and Texas Tech do battle for the Big 12 title. Notre Dame fans rooting hard for Texas Tech because a BYU win, if you look at the current college football rankings, may mean that they knock the Irish out of the playoff, and they will not be there. So Big 12 championship, that's on ABC. 4 p.m. Eastern, the SEC title game. Center stage, Alabama facing Georgia at Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. A Georgia victory might possibly mean that Bama could be left out of the playoff. Maybe. Well, we here at SportsIQ, we don't think so. But Bama can't lay an egg. You can't do a Texas-type thing and lose like 35-10 to the Bulldogs. So keep that TV on ABC for all the action there. 8 p.m., you have a choice of the ACC title game, Virginia versus Duke. A Blue Devils win could mean the ACC as a conference gets shut out of the CFP altogether. That's on ABC. And then Fox has the best of the best, unbeaten number 1 Ohio State taking on unbeaten and number 2 Indiana for the Big Ten title. This is you can't miss this. 2 Heisman finalists to be sure, and their quarterbacks, Mendoza and Sayin, Indiana and Ohio State. That's just insane. Okay. We're not done. Let's say you're a college basketball fan. Well, here's where that second or maybe third TV will be needed. Tonight, Gonzaga and Kentucky are set to square off at 7 p.m. on ESPN2. Friday night, Nashville. That should be a great game. Gonzaga, that 40-point loss in Vegas to Michigan last week. Kentucky, 0-3 against ranked teams. They are antsy in the bluegrass right now because their team has yet to beat have a signature win here this year. So that's on Friday. Then Saturday, at noon on Fox, number 4 Duke, 7th-ranked Michigan State. They do battle in East Lansing, undefeated, top 10 Blue Bloods. Duke is 9-0, Michigan State 8-0. That comes up on Saturday. Then you're looking ahead to, neither the coach, by the way, doused the energy and expectation for Saturday's fight between the college hoops heavyweights in this. Duke pushed to the end of the game. They had to come up in the final seconds, get the win over Florida at home. But now their most difficult task going into the I-Zone. And Coach John Shire, Duke, saying, I think there are things for us that we are still figuring out with our group. But at the end of the day, they're competitors, and you got to find a way to make those key stops in those moments. The offense, we'll figure it out. it'll come. So we will see what happens there. Michigan State, meanwhile, followed its Thanksgiving conquering of then unbeaten North Carolina by handing Iowa its first loss Tuesday night, 71-52 in the romp in the Big Ten conference opener for both. So the Spartans trying to pin a first loss on their third straight opponent when Duke comes in. At noon on CBS, another battle of top 10s. Number 10, Iowa State at top-ranked Purdue and Mackey Arena. Again, you might want to pick up some extra TVs. 2:15, CBS. Number 6, Louisville, taking on 22nd ranked Indiana. The Hoosiers suffering their first loss of the season on Wednesday at Minnesota. Louisville also lost their first game, going down 89-80 to Arkansas. And then 8 o'clock Saturday in Nashville, number 14, Illinois, with 13th ranked Tennessee. The Vols trying to right their ship after back-to-back losses last week to Kansas out in Vegas. Tuesday night in Syracuse to the Orange in the ACC-SEC showdown. Illinois lost their last outing to number 5 UConn on Black Friday in New York City. 8 p.m. as well, Peacock. Ole Miss comes up to the big city and takes on number 23 St. John's. If you have any energy left, 10 p.m. on ESPN, number 20 Auburn in Tucson taking on number 2 Arizona. If you've had your fill for us sports fans, Sunday promises to be just as exciting. From noon to 3 on ESPN, the college football playoff selection show will take place. Someone will not be happy. Several people will not be happy when it's all said and done. NFL, 1 o'clock. It's Indy traveling to Jacksonville to lead in the AFC South on the line. Also, another divisional showdown, Pittsburgh and Baltimore in the AFC North. The late games, the late afternoon games, oldest rivalry set to take place. The Bears at 9-3, traveling to Green Bay. The Packers 8-3-1, half game back in the NFC North. The Bears right now, the number 1 seed in the NFC playoffs. So if you are a sports fan in your house, at any time they say they're on board with this weekend, well, you have our permission to slap them with a wet fish, because this is insane. Again, this is what we're talking about. As we talked about, we want to get back to, as we teased a few minutes ago at the top of our headline segment, Ben Garrett joining us right now. He is the editor of the Ole Miss Spirit on 3. Also, daily podcast, Talking Champions. This guy, and as you can imagine right now, he has been slammed, I'm sure, this week, getting very little sleep because, kind of the college football universe right now has been centered around Oxford. It's been crazy. First off, Ben, congrats on the Rebels, a fantastic season. And I will tell you right now, we at SportsIQ, we love the way the university has handled this situation. What is a sticky and nasty situation. It's not their fault, but I think that they've handled it the best they can. I look forward to seeing them play in the playoff.
It's been an insane couple of weeks. It's unfortunate more than anything for these players, because Ole Miss is in the midst of, it should be celebrating the greatest modern era season in Ole Miss football history.
Yeah.
And the focus has been on anything but that. It's been the Lane Kiffin show, and that's part of doing business with Lane Kiffin. Everything and everyone orbits around him in that way. So not knocking that, because that's just part of it, but it is unfortunate because these guys have done something that hasn't been done around here in a long, long time. And so many great stories have come along with that have taken back seats to the absolutely TMZ level nature of keeping up with the Kardashians here. You had Trinidad Chambliss, a former zero-star recruit who transferred from Division II Ferris State. That man took over a starting job because Austin Simmons, who everybody was loving in the preseason, and rightfully so, got banged up. Nothing he did wrong. Almost loves him, but Trinidad played so well you couldn't replace him, and now they're 11-1. Kewan Lacey's a Doak Walker Award finalist. Set a new single-season Ole Miss rushing record for touchdowns, surpassing Quinshon Judkins. No one's talking about him. He should be a Heisman guy that goes to New York, but no one's talking about him. Even Trinidad should probably get considered for that. Yeah. More and more, Patrick Kutas wins the whole trophy here in Mississippi, which goes to the best offensive lineman every year in Mississippi. And this is a guy in week 1 in his first live action in at least a year, both practice and game, was the lowest graded Ole Miss offensive player against Georgia Southern. And now he's winning the whole trophy because he's found his footing, and he's been an anchor for an offensive line that's been one of the most improved position groups, if not the most improved on the team. So it's nice that at least now, as Ole Miss turns toward the postseason and the playoffs, that they have a coach that is putting the focus back on the players, well, not even back, just putting it on the players, because it was on anything but the players for so long, and trying to tell the story of Ole Miss, because what an amazing story it is.
Yeah, no question about that. And I really believe it's the right thing was happening. We all know who Lane Kiffin is. He's a fantastic football coach, but every exit for him has always been ugly. And I've said before, and I'll say it again. To me, I don't know how you walk away from a team you built into the first ever playoff team. I know the money is there. It's stupid money. Nobody would turn it down. But if they really want you, they'll hold off and wait. Guys, I got to coach my guys. I got to. Once this is done, I'll come be your coach. But I got to coach my guys first.
Well, I'll push back only against one thing. The money was, I mean, he actually took a pay cut to go to LSU. I mean, Ole Miss had on his desk for weeks an offer that would have surpassed $13 million. He's making 12. He's making Kirby Smart level money at LSU. But the bottom line is there was nothing Ole Miss wasn't offering that LSU was. You could say, well, historically, LSU has produced more this, and this. And that's no one's arguing the history. We're talking about the here and now, and that's all any of us got, guys. Yeah. And right now, Ole Miss's NIL, at least operationally, is far better structured and more cohesive than LSU, even though LSU might have more dollars, but Ole Miss spends its dollars better. Just because the Tampa Bay Rays are the Tampa Bay Rays, the New York Yankees, the New York Yankees, who's been the most competitive consistently because they do what they do better than what you do well. Sure. And that's where, like, I would push back against that. Like, he didn't go over there because they offered him, like, dropped the bag, and little Ole Miss couldn't. Ole Miss offered him $13.5 million a year. They said, we'll match anything we want, what you want, but it was never about that. Because Lane Kiffin, his entire life, has always been chasing and will always be chasing. I hope he finds what he's looking for at LSU. But you had everything you claimed you wanted, but in the end of all things, it's still about the superficialness of a logo for you, even though everything else was even, and they just wanted to build you a statue. Here now, if you don't win at LSU, there's no coming back from this. You understand? Like, there's no recovering from this. Everything that you'd built up as far as a PR standpoint and changing the narrative. And he did some legitimate growing at Ole Miss. Like, it needs to be said. Like, he should be proud of getting sober. He should be proud of reconciliation with his family. Like, those are all amazing things. Praise be to God from whom all blessings flow. But we can still in the same breath say you should be proud of all those things, but also ashamed of the way you handled this, because this was not fair or equitable, and you burned every bridge on the way out. And like you said, if there's one thing that's been consistent about Lane Kiffin throughout his entire coaching career, the exit is always ugly. And in that way, a zebra doesn't change its stripes then. Yeah. In that way, a leopard doesn't change its spot. I'm not going to use a crude metaphor that people might mischaracterize as something else. I'll just simply use another metaphor about non-commitment, because this is who he is. And if he really wanted to prove people wrong, he would have stayed and finished what he started, or at least, because, like, no one would have begrudged him, y'all, if he said, listen, I am all in with this team. You know how long it's taken me to get to this place with a certain team? I love this team. I don't care about anything else. I'm going to ride with them until the season's over, whenever that is. And if other schools want to wait for me, okay, I'll entertain it. Because, listen, guys, we're all year to year. Just been honest about it. Instead, he was going on Pat McAfee, acting like he'd never acted before like an Ole Miss cheerleader, all because he didn't want people to think he lost the power dynamic because Ole Miss gave him an ultimatum and he didn't like it. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, let's stop playing petty games, because when you play petty games, you get petty rewards and gifts, bro. And right now, it's just nothing but petty, vengeful nonsense when it didn't have to be that way. Almost didn't want it to be that way. All they want to do is build you a statue, love you, and put your name on the stadium. You're only 1 or 2 wins away from surpassing Johnny Vaught for winningest coach in Ole Miss history, and his name is on the stadium, Vaught Hemingway Stadium. They would have called it Vaught Kiffin Stadium. They'd have built the stuff but all you wanted to do was chase the logo and chase vanity of vanities. And you know what? You got to make decisions best for you, apparently. But, like, Ole Miss doesn't have to sit by and go, oh yeah, this was okay, because it wasn't.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the fact that Ole Miss has done that, and you're exactly right. It's I think one thing. Look, none of us know how the level of success he's going to have in Baton Rouge, but I think we all can put our chips where I'm putting my chips down on the table. Is that his exit from Baton Rouge will happen before 7 years, and he won't finish the contract, and it will be another crazy, bizarre, ugly departure. That's where I'm putting my. So yeah, hey, I know. Yeah, you made some headlines by making an analogy before. In terms of Lane Kiffin and a housewife, and I'll if you want to get with that, that's fine. But I do want to talk about the team in terms of, like you said, focusing on the team and what they're doing right now moving forward. I love the fact that the committee didn't penalize this program for Lane Kiffin. Instead, they saw what the Ole Miss athletic department is doing with this team, keeping everyone intact. And I love the fact that they're, again, locked into a playoff berth and going to be moving forward with a better seed, a seed that they deserve, and not being discounted.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I'll be quite honest. I I was convinced that because it's hard to trust the process. The
Sure.
process that is college football organizationally is just an absolute mess.
Yeah.
It's broken. Dan Mullen wasn't wrong when he said, I think earlier this week, man, you really want to fix this? Blow it all up and start from scratch. You're going to lose a lot of things, but I don't know how you make this right. How you make this equitable? How do you make this fair?
Yeah.
And part of that inequitability, that unfairness, is a bunch of stuffy old men in suits picking who should be ranked where and hosting games with millions of dollars of local revenue on the line. And all they're thinking about is their own personal considerations. That sucks. It should be a computer that takes blind resumes and ranks them accordingly. And in that way, Ole Miss would be no worse than number 5, probably. Let's be honest here. No other, if it were Georgia on the helmet, if it were LSU, no one would even be debating. Actually, they say, well, that coach is really stupid. But because they like old biases die hard, they think, well, it's just little Ole Miss. But it was good to see that those stuffy old men in suits who live by their biases, who only worried about lining their own pockets, did right by the players, because there's very little of that in this game anymore. There's very little of that. Like there are no guardrails. So when some actual adults in the room with some lever, with their hands on some levers of power, say, no, we're going to do this the right way, you have to reward it. You have to applaud it. So I think that was a great point you bring up there, Larry. I mean, to be able to not penalize the kids, to not penalize the institution. Now, yeah, they're probably going to send somebody tougher than they should be getting in that first round. I would venture to say Alabama will be on the way, right? But allowing Ole Miss to host a home playoff game that it has earned, to get to generate $50 to $70 million in local revenue for a small town. It's like the Green Bay Packers on the college level. That is Oxford and Ole Miss. All right. Sure. Like Ole Miss is the everything. You go around the towns around Oxford, Mississippi, everything feeds into Ole Miss. And to reward that and to show support and give them what they've earned for the players, for the coaches that have put in those hours, those 5 a.m. runs in June, not tick them because but if we put them on the road, the lane stuff, we can get this much money. No, reward the players for what they've earned. That's what the point of this whole exercise is. That's the spirit of the thing, guys. So in that way, man, my hat's off to those guys, because I'll be honest, I was cynical as hell about it. I was like, dude, you know what they're going to do, and they didn't. So props to them, man. That's a cool thing.
Absolutely. Well, we yell out hotty toddy for you guys, man. We appreciate your time. Great to talk with you, and we understand now why you were so popular there in Oxford. And hopefully, you'll find time to join us again as we get deeper into this season.
Larry, Tony, I'm dead serious, man. Y'all are awesome. I've listened to you before. I think y'all are great people. And if you ever need me, I'm here. Praise be to God from whom all blessings flow. And if you want to sign up and hang out and talk to your stupid friend Ginger Shrek all day, every day, I do it at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, and affiliate of On3. Sign up for $1.
Love it. We got you. We'll make sure that we get the word out as well. Ben Garrett, thanks so much for joining us every day, by the way, the Talking Champions daily podcast. And again, as he mentioned, he is the editor of Ole Miss Spirit on On3. And again, you can get just a taster in a few minutes here why he is so popular there. And we are thrilled having you here as part of our show. Thank you, my friend. Hotty toddy.
Thank you, guys.
All right, man. Go Rebels. Come up here on Sunday as they're part of the college football playoff. We'll find out who they're going to host, as he mentioned, in round 1. Okay, we've got much more still to come. More college coaches football news on the way. We've also got, Vanderbilt talking Henry Oelhafen about the Commodores. It's a big show ahead here on the Sports IQ.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
we've got so much stuff here for this show. We almost need to expand Sports IQ, just like we need to look at getting more TVs for the weekend. College football coaching news, a couple of situations taken care of. Kansas State, after the retirement there. Colin Klein comes in, the former Wildcat star quarterback, past couple of years as the offensive coordinator for Texas A&M. He's going to go up to Manhattan and become the new head coach. He's like 35 years old. I mean, I did a double take. Wait a minute. Didn't he play there yesterday? Actually, it was back, back in the 20-teens, 2012, back in there. So, but anyway, he's going to still call the shots for the offense for A&M in the playoff, as he should. We're seeing the same thing with Oregon and Will Stein before he goes to Kentucky. But a great move there. This was one that was kind of expected because, again, he is one of the legends of K-State football, especially here in the past couple of years. Kansas State, they love their ties to the legendary Bill Snyder, and here's another one. So coming in, keeping that link alive. So again, looking for big things for him as the Wildcats go to compete in the Big 12. By the way, they went 6-6 this year in 2025. James Madison with an interesting hire. They are bringing in former Florida coach Billy Napier to coach the Dukes there in Virginia. So Napier, of course, was the hot name 3 years ago coming out of Louisiana. And boy, what a coup Florida got. They got the hot young name. Never worked out for him in Gainesville. He was dead man walking after year one. Made it through last season with an 8-5 year. Again, fired during the season here this year, but he goes to JMU. Intriguing hire because clearly he's proven before he can coach. And it's not like he was terrible at Florida. They had some injuries. Guys didn't develop, had a young team, a lot of different things there. I think this is an intriguing hire in terms of JMU, what they've done in their past couple of hires, taking a guy coming up from the smaller college ranks to put him in place as the head coach. Not the case here. Somebody who had success on the lower Division I level and now goes there again. Already the things are in place for him with the program. This is, again, where you've got Bob Chesney now heading to UCLA. The guy before him, Kurt Cignetti, is the guy, again, in Indiana, playing in the Big Ten title game Saturday night against Ohio State. We've already talked ad nauseum about how Cignetti single-handedly has changed the game of college football coaching in terms of how much time you're going to get to develop a program, because he has come in and turned around what has been annually a horrible Indiana football program with very little success, and has made them immediately one of the elite teams in college football in a way that we really have not seen. Well, I'm not sure really in my lifetime we've seen that. Meanwhile, that leaves us to Penn State. We've talked about the problems there in Not So Happy Valley, trying to find a head coach for James Franklin. We talked earlier with Mike Rose saying that, yeah, some folks may be regretting how they handled this thing. Well, it turns out that they may have their guy. As we're talking right now here on Friday, they're talking with Matt Campbell of Iowa State. He was a hot name, has been a success since he came over from Toledo, has spurred some other conversations from schools, larger, if you will, more prestigious programs, if you will. He's got a good thing going in Ames, makes about $5 million a year. They're winning every year, 8, 9, 10 games. Last year, I think they were Big 12 champs in 2024, another 8-win season this year. Will that come to fruition? Will Matt Campbell be the guy to replace the fired James Franklin? We will watch that. Big news in the NBA, not for what happened, but for what didn't happen. For the first time since January 5th, 2007, when George W. Bush was in office, LeBron James did not score 10 or more points in an NBA game. Just 8 points in Thursday night's 123-120 win over Toronto. And so that ends his streak of, get this, 1,297 games in a row, spanning 19 years, 19 seasons, if you will. You go back and look at, again, Bush was in office. Clearly it's an NBA record, because second on that list, consecutive double-digit wins or games and 10 points, double-digit scoring, is Michael Jordan with only 866 wins. And by the way, the current leader right now, Kevin Durant, with 267 wins. Games, I'm sorry, 267 games, 10 points or more. And Durant isn't young, right? What's he, like 35, 36? I mean, he's getting up there. So in other words, this is going to stand for a while. Like I may be 6 feet under by the time this record is broken for him. By the way, a couple of other games on Thursday night. The Warriors start their 3-game East Coast trip without Steph Curry. He's got that thigh injury, and they lose a close one to Philadelphia, 99-98. Minnesota, Utah also winners. Boston 146-101 over the Wizards and the Celtics without Jaylen Brown. And, of course, without Jalen Tatum. And Wizards, you still lost by 45. Can I check your NBA card before we let you in the arena? Are you sure you're still an NBA team? Boy, that was bad. Just 3 wins this year for Washington. Oklahoma City, the Thunder, trying on that to improve on that one loss so far this season. Their status here this weekend, they're hosting Dallas Friday night and then at Utah on Sunday. Okay, let's talk some Vandy football up next. What is and what is not in Nashville with Henry Oelhafen. That's next.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Obviously, it's a big college football weekend, and joining us once again on the show is Henry Oelhafen. He's the editor for the Vanderbilt Hustler. Henry, hey, good to see you again. Nothing happening with Vanderbilt this week at all. Vanderbilt sports, right? I mean, it's just kind of a boring week.
Yeah, I mean, it's a boring week, right? There's nothing important happening on this Vanderbilt campus right now. No, obviously, there's loads to talk about. I'm excited to dive into it because it's been a wild week for myself just covering this team.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start first with football. Obviously, CFP, the pairings are coming out on Sunday. We've been talking for weeks, if not months, really even end of last season, that there's going to come a time with this format where you're going to have some 2 lost teams left out. You know, last year, some SEC schools, Ole Miss, South Carolina felt 9-3, should have gotten them in. Now we're at 10-2, and this is just the way the scheduling is. This is going to happen. It's going to become a thing unless they change the way they do things. Get ready. Right now, Vanderbilt is on the outside looking in. What kind of hope springs eternal there in Nashville that they might hear their name called on Sunday?
Yeah, I think that the hope might be gone at this point. Obviously, Vanderbilt ranks number 14. They won't be playing in a conference championship either on Saturday. So hope sort of feels lost for the college football playoff. And we had press conferences with Clark Lee, with Candace Lee, our Vanderbilt's athletic director, all week. And they do feel like they've earned a spot in this college football playoff. But as you said, they're a 10-2 SEC team. I think beginning of the season, you would have thought 10-2 in the SEC. That's a lock for the playoff, maybe to even host a game in that playoff. But now they're on the outside looking at number 14. And there's I think there's a fair bit of debate on a lot of platforms about whether Vanderbilt should get into this playoff. They have a very high strength of record, ranking number 11 in the country. Their strength of schedule obviously is quite high. They play in the SEC. So there's certainly a lot of arguments that they should be in this playoff. And some other teams in front of them are perhaps people are viewing them as less deserving as Vanderbilt. But yeah, it seems like they're on the outside looking in, and I would expect them not to have their name called on Sunday night when the playoff committee is announcing it.
Yeah, and we saw some reports that possibly Coach Lee was looking to maybe schedule a 13th game this weekend to try to convince the committee to give a look at them. Any truth to that?
Yes, so that idea was floated. I mean, Clark Lee in his presser on Monday was like, put the ball down anywhere, anytime, anywhere, and we'll, my team will be there. So that was the narrative coming out of Nashville this week. And obviously that game logistically did not work out. I think Pete Thamel put out a tweet yesterday about it, but that is obviously not a feasible thing to do for the athletic department right now. And so those claims have sort of been silenced. And I think that was more of a saying for Vanderbilt is ready to play anyone, and they're ready to take on anyone because they're not scared of anyone else in the top 15 of the CFP rankings. But yes, that idea was floated. It did make me think for a second that Vanderbilt could be playing another game on Saturday. And I was ready to make the trip out to Hawaii or wherever this game was going to be. But seems like that's not going to be the case anymore. And Vanderbilt's fate perhaps has been sealed already.
Yeah, I do think that this with Vanderbilt, with a possible 2-loss BYU team, with Texas with 3 top 10 wins, there are a couple other teams. Miami may get left out as well. Notre Dame could get pushed out if BYU wins. These different scenarios. I think it comes back to, and I've said this before, the Big Ten proposal earlier this year of playing some consolation championship games on championship Saturday could become a reality, because right now what you're kind of counting on a series of a matrix on paper to determine why one team is better than another when you have 4 or 5 teams tied for second place, whatever the case is, or third place, whatever. And I think with a team like Vanderbilt, you might get a chance to go play at Texas A&M Saturday afternoon before the championship game to prove you're one of the top 4 teams and therefore you should be in. Do you think that we're getting this year may push us closer to a 16-team playoff and it has some kind of scheduled play-in games for those teams on the fringe?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an argument, and you hear a lot about this 16-team playoff potentially coming to fruition in the next couple of years. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great argument, right? It's a lot of these bubble teams. It's really hard to compare them. I mean, you look at teams like Miami, Notre Dame, Vanderbilt. They all play vastly different schedules against vastly different competitions of opponents. Obviously, the FPI for ESPN is a big indicator for the College Football Playoff Committee, and Vanderbilt, granted, is behind both Miami and Notre Dame in FPI. So there is an argument that they've fallen there, and that is the committee's metric to basically compare teams against different conferences. So I'm not necessarily surprised by the outcome that Vanderbilt is sitting at number 14 right now. As I said, I expect Vanderbilt to miss the College Football Playoff and likely play in the ReliaQuest Bowl on December 31st. But I think those playing games could be interesting. We'll see how the NCAA and the College Football Playoff Committee sort of evolves around that, but it's certainly a possibility. Obviously, this year not going to be the case most likely. So
yeah. By the way, should say congratulations on a very resounding win in Knoxville last week. Had to feel good for you guys to do that. Diogo Pavia even going to as far as to tweet at President Trump. You say you'll please do an executive order to get this. Either that was a joke, or as many people on social media went out and said this guy should take a civics class. Do they not teach that at Vanderbilt?
I think they do teach it at Vanderbilt, but yeah, he did
Sure
tweet
they do,
out at Donald Trump.
He skipped the class himself, but I'm sure.
But yeah, he did tweet that out this week. It's a wild ride for Vanderbilt. Right now it feels unreal covering this team because so much is happening. I mean, I'm sure we'll get down to it here in a second, but the Heisman race is heating up as well. Diego Pavia is firmly in the mix for that. So it's hard to cover everything these days. So much is happening on all these platforms. So
yeah, this is great, especially like you said for Vanderbilt football. You don't get 10-win seasons in Nashville. It doesn't happen. Speaking of the Heisman, we're coming up now. We'll know the finalists here shortly. It feels like Diego. It would be a travesty if Diego Pavia is not at least invited to New York. I mean, he has to be a finalist, one of the top 3 or 4 players in the country this season.
Yeah, I would say he's locked his ticket to New York. It was maybe up in the air about 2 weeks ago before Vanderbilt played Kentucky and Tennessee. But after those stellar performances, I mean, he set the program's single game passing yards record against Kentucky, accounted for over 400 yards against Tennessee. So, I mean, I think he's firmly locked up his spot. And, there's arguments should Diego Pavia even potentially win the Heisman. I think it's unlikely from an outside perspective. I think Mendoza and Sayin definitely probably stand the better shot right now. But I think there are certainly arguments out there for Diego winning the Heisman. I mean, you look at who's around him. I think Sayin and Mendoza have a much stronger team around them in terms of greater impact on their given team. Obviously, the stats sort of, it can be split a lot of different ways, but Diego Pavia has more passing yards, more rushing yards than both Sayin and Mendoza. But there's a lot of ways to cut it. He will certainly be in New York on December 13th with a potential to win it, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's a little bit unfair that, as you said, those two, they get the platform Saturday night in the Big Ten championship game, and they're deserving as well. Take nothing away from them. But you're exactly right. You take those two away. Did those two improve their team from last year? No. Did Pavia improve his team from last year? Yes. So I mean, he's made a difference these last 2 years in terms of the greatest 2-year era, I believe, in school history. If my research was correct, so there's no question about that. Speaking of quarterbacks, something else again that never happened before. Shocker, maybe the shocker of all shockers this week is signing day. Is Vanderbilt flipping a 5-star quarterback from Georgia? I mean, talk about that. How did that develop, and what was the reaction there?
I mean, this is probably the most program-altering thing that's happened to Vanderbilt football in the last years. And I mean, that's hard to say because Vanderbilt beat number 1 Alabama last year. Right. They're up to 10-2 now, but this is perhaps the biggest win I've seen for Clark Lee in the history of the program. This is, obviously his name's Jerrick Curtis. He's ranked number 1 quarterback in the class, officially signed on Wednesday with the Commodores. But it was shocking to see that. I mean, Vanderbilt is now flipping recruits from Georgia near signing day. I mean, that feels like a sentence that wouldn't come out of your mouth 2 years ago, and Vanderbilt was 2-10 and in 0-8 in the SEC. But Curtis is a generational talent. I think he's deserving of the number 1 quarterback in the country label. He is extremely impressive arm talent, probably the biggest arm talent in that entire class. And he looks to become a starter from day one here at Vanderbilt, and I think that's part of what drew him away from Georgia. Obviously, Gunnar Stockton most likely back next year for the Dogs, but I mean, there's really not much quarterback competition for him here at Vanderbilt. We'll see what Vanderbilt does in the portal. They may bring in another guy or two from the transfer portal, but it's seeming like Curtis is going to be that guy for Vanderbilt football moving forward. And really shocking to see him actually flip. And and for that to come to fruition on Tuesday.
Yeah, that is just it's amazing, like you said. But as we talked to before we came on the air, I think it's a sign of the times in college football, where things are much more level, and you're not going to. It's going to be harder to build a dynasty because you can get a bag anywhere, and the way the schedule's set up, if you put together, you have a better. There are more teams with an opportunity to get those 8-9 wins every year, because of the transfer portal, because of NIL. And if you have a program like we've talked about Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, we referred to Illinois in a similar situation with Vanderbilt, back-to-back 8-win seasons, only the third coach ever to do that in program history. The first one was back like in the 1900 something. I mean, it never happens there. But you have those kinds of opportunities now, and they signed a big class where you have these programs not known for football all of a sudden having not just some success, but some sustained success. And that's what makes this era of college football fun.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think it's wild, but I think this is the new college football landscape that we're moving towards. This is the era of NIL. This is the era of revenue sharing. This is the era where anyone can go out and make a lot of money if you're worth it in the transfer portal or as a recruit coming out of high school. So I think there's certainly more competitive offers out there. I feel like 20 years ago, Georgia and Alabama would, run these recruiting rankings, just picking up all the 4-star, all the 5-stars because of their programs. But now, you're shifting towards a focus where Vanderbilt, other programs can really flip a lot of these high profile recruits and bring them to campus. But this Curtis commitment and eventual signing on Wednesday is really transformational for the program. And I'm certainly expecting him to start in 2026, and it'll be interesting to see how he does in his first year of college football.
Absolutely. We mentioned Clark Lee's name a couple of times, and obviously he's in the news as well, signing a 6-year extension, taking him out of the mix of the other Penn State, other jobs. How important was it for Vanderbilt, again, to make that commitment to him to make the Curtis situation happen and whatever's going to happen in the transfer portal and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, that was huge. Just my ear to the ground. I think Curtis committing and signing with Vanderbilt was in large part due to that extension. I think he's had a lot of conversations with Clark Lee, has actually had quite a fair bit of conversations with Diego Pavia as well. He seems like he's sort of developed as a mentor for Jerrick Curtis, who will be coming next year. But that extension was massive. We were, the entire media, the entire fan base was waiting for that extension to come. It actually came quite late. I think the media expected it to come a bit earlier, but it obviously came the day before the Tennessee game. So exactly a week ago from now. But that was huge. It's listed as a 6-year extension per Pete Nakos on 3. It actually hasn't been confirmed by the athletic department, but we're just sort of assuming that Pete's right there. But that was massive, and it's great to see that Clark Lee is here on campus for the foreseeable future. I think that was a main concern, that he might get poached for a lot of jobs like Penn State and such like that. So
yeah. And I think it's big too. I mean, with the whole Lane Kiffin thing we've talked about, look, the money is stupid money. No one's going to turn that kind of cash. But I think there are many of us, and I'm right there at the front of the line, that I'm stunned that you'd walk away from a team you built and get ready to play in your first playoff game, and you'd walk away from that. To me, if you're that kind of demand, you wait until they're done, and then I'll come join you. And so I think that's wild. I love the fact that Vanderbilt, that they're staying in place. I can't let you go before we talk about basketball and the hot start there. You don't think I'm not watching that in the rankings, and it's an unbelievable start what you've got there for the Doors.
Yeah, this team is an analytical darling. They're currently ranked number 4 in the net. I think last time I checked, number 7 in KenPom, number 6 in Torvik, I believe. Wow. This team is ready to go. And honestly, I wasn't necessarily sure of the start they might have. It's all about these transfers and how they gel on the court. But Mark Byington has really created something here on West End. It's really impressive what they've done so far. Obviously took down St. Mary's, who they lost to in the NCAA tournament this past year. Took them down by a sizable margin. They beat SMU by 19 on Wednesday night. I mean, this team could be really legit. And I think, now they're ranked in the top 25 of the AP poll. This team could go very far into March. And if I was to lodge a prediction now, I'd say they'd be a top 5-6 seed. So top 5 seed being a top 20 team in the country overall when come March. So this team is very dangerous. Their offense works like none I've ever seen. And Mark Byington is cooking right now on West End.
Yeah, and that's fun because, I don't know if you followed Vanderbilt back in the day when Kevin Stallings was the coach there, but they were always a very competitive team back then. But this feels special. And again, it's one of these where you play an unbalanced schedule in the new, mega conference setup. And so, for this team to run through the season and be a top 4 seed in the SEC come March is not a surprise. Would not be a surprise. I haven't looked at their schedule in terms of who they play twice or whatever. But you're not. It's the round robin days are over. You're not playing Kentucky twice. You're not playing and Alabama twice and Florida twice. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean the schedule's brutal. I think the SEC is actually taking a step back from last year. Obviously, the SEC had one of the best years of all time for a conference in all of college basketball last year. I personally don't think the SEC is quite as strong as it was last year, but that could be a positive for Vanderbilt just because they're going to have more opportunities to win this spring. And I think once conference play hits, I think Vanderbilt should have their fair share of success. There's so many guys in this team that I look at and I think that fit into Mark Byington's system so well. It's just a high energy, high paced offense that really can run teams off the floor, and that's what we've seen so far. And I expect nothing to be nothing less than that as the SEC play approaches.
Got to be cool for you to not have any time off, right? I mean, usually by now football's down. Okay, we'll start jumping in. You can't walk away from football yet, but then basketball isn't. I mean, this is a fun time to be at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. I'm also taking finals, so I feel like I gotta worry about my finals too. I gotta worry about the football team, the basketball team. So my weeks have been busy. There have been too many late nights, but we're getting through it, and the content we've been producing has been stellar. So
that is awesome. But what an experience for you guys. As I see the schedule here, you do play Alabama coming up here January 7th. Is beginning to get into SEC play that week. Yeah, the books are important. I won't be your dad, but let your parents tell you that. Absolutely, get that stuff done. But Henry, my friend, enjoy the ride, man. It's always been great to talk with you and hear your enthusiasm, get the inside stuff, what's happening there with Vanderbilt. Listen, good luck with exams. Happy holidays. If you go to New York, have fun up there, get some pizza, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks so much, Larry. It's great talking to you.
Great talking to you as always. Good to have you here. Henry Oelhafen joining us once again. He's the editor of the Vanderbilt Hustler, and good times right now. And by the way, we didn't even mention, I drove through last week. We didn't even mention the new stadium they're building there. And you can see now like how large it's going to be. And like with all stadiums, but I think of in Houston, when I first went down to the Super Bowl, when they brought it back to the city back in 2004, and to go into NRG Stadium and to look at the Astrodome looked like a basketball arena next to NRG, how large it was. Similar here, how it's just so much larger than already a very large and not that old Nissan Stadium. So great time to be in Nashville. All right, we got to run. Take a break. SportsIQ. So again, big, massive weekend. My goodness. And producer Tony, let's just start at the top here. Number 1 versus number 2, Ohio State to Indiana. And it's, again, going back to, look, we've already seen the Big Ten with back-to-back national champions. I think it's clear these are the 2 best teams in college football. Depending on how the seedings go, we could see them again later. I would love to see that. Love to see the loser of this game drop to maybe the 3 seed. I think that's possible if it's a close game because they are so good. Let's just say Georgia wins SEC. You could then see, let's just say an Ohio State number 1, number 3 seed Indiana meeting again in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, this game, while not key to anything happening in the college football playoff, except for where the seeds line up, but this is just a classic matchup. The only thing I wish that were different, Larry, kind of wish it were outside.
Yeah.
It is going to be like 15 degrees this evening in Indianapolis, but they're playing inside the dome, which is fine. You know, us old school people, those of us over 60, love to see those cold weather games played. This would have been a great opportunity for that, but hey, we'll be okay. We'll watch the game. I want to see what Julian Sayin does against this Indiana defense, if he can penetrate it, and I want to see how the Indiana defense can handle those 2 wideouts, Tate and Smith, for Ohio State. Those are some of the key matchups I'm looking for. I still think it might come down to which team can run the ball better and which team takes care of the football. That is always key when you got these big matchups like this, when you got 2 great teams going at it. It'd just be interesting to me to see Curt Cignetti put the kind of bow on this 2-year resurgence and win the Big Ten title.
Yeah. I will tell you, I am a Cignetti fan. He has made me a believer. I felt the first year he caught lightning in a bottle, and we'll see what happens. You got to the playoff, you lost. I kind of figured that would happen. What he's done this year, going back to really the beatdown they put on Illinois, that was like a Drago versus Apollo Rocky IV type beatdown. Like, I mean, Illinois fans couldn't find the towel. I think I've mentioned I was at a speaking engagement that night, emceeing an event, and I was just checking my phone. And every time I got up to introduce somebody and came back, Indiana scored again. I mean, it was like, wait, 21-10, wait, 28-10, wait, 35-10, 42-10. I mean, it was nuts. But ever since then, they've met every challenge, even the close games. They find a way to win. For a young team, for a young program that has never, ever had this kind of success, it's one thing for the coaches to say, go do this. It's something else for the players to believe they can do that. And I think, I'll be honest with you, Ohio State's the favorite. They should be. Defending national champs, number one all season long. They've met every challenge as well. Coming off the big emotional win at Ann Arbor last week, I'm going Indiana in this game. I believe in what the Hoosiers are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of what Curt Cignetti has done. I think he's a great motivator.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. You've got to be able to find a way to motivate young men to believe they can do things that maybe they shouldn't be able to do, which is kind of what I think is happening here with Indiana. I'm going to kind of go with Ohio State in this. I just think they're too strong. We haven't seen Jeremiah Smith explode lately. I'm looking forward to a Jeremiah Smith explosion tonight. I think if Julian Sain can get some time, he's going to hit Jeremiah Smith for a couple of deep bombs, and that's going to prove to be the difference in the ball game.
Yeah, I noticed too against Michigan, he went over to Tate a few times, trying to open up that secondary. I did that, and it worked out very well for him doing that. The SEC game, meanwhile, in Atlanta, it's Georgia, Alabama. I'm with you. I think both teams probably we agree that if you're in the CFP rankings in the top 10 going into conference championship weekend, a loss can't lock you out. You can't replace Alabama losing with the team that didn't even play. Like Alabama did a few years ago in the 14 playoff. That's another conversation. But to your point, you've said, and I agree with you, if Georgia blows them out, it may be a different story.
Yeah, you may have to take another look. Look, Alabama has played a fantastic schedule. They've got, I think, 4 ranked wins in that schedule. But you just can't lay an egg here against Georgia. Yeah. Any game that goes into the fourth quarter, they're both in. Doesn't matter who comes out the victor. I think Georgia will end up taking this ball game. I think they're hitting their stride at the right time with Georgia. I think the running game has come around. I think that Gunnar Stockton is really settled in nicely as the quarterback, and I think they win the game. I think it's very important for Alabama to make sure it is a well-played, close football game to ensure that they're in. Yeah. Otherwise, you're looking at a 3-loss Alabama team at this point.
Yeah. And that maybe what you don't want to do in this situation, we've talked about in basketball for decades, you don't want to put yourself in question on Sunday with the committee. That's the big thing. It's if you win the game, you're 2-loss, you're champions, you're in, doesn't matter. Georgia's going to get anyway, regardless, doesn't matter. But you don't want to put it in question. You don't want the debate to come up because you don't know how that debate is going to go. In the Big 12, I'm looking forward to see what BYU can do. Come through and show that this 11-1, you're not getting a lot of love in terms of the schedule you played. The Big 12 not as strong, not as deep as they were last year. But come through and get a big win. Your one loss was not a good loss to Texas Tech. They handled you throughout. Can you come through and defeat this Texas Tech game that really right now is going for, if they get a win, they'll get a bye in the playoff.
Yeah, they'll be in one of the top 4 seeds of the win. And there's going to be an awful lot of Notre Dame fans rooting for Texas Tech.
Yes.
Out there. I truly believe that this game, I'll be one of them. I'll be rooting hard for the Red Raiders. Not my normal look, but I will find something red and put it on. But I do believe that if Texas Tech wins and BYU gets that second loss, then they won't be in the playoff. But if they can beat Texas Tech, 1 loss, winning your conference championship, I think that ends all the Miami Notre Dame debate out. Both teams are on the outside looking in. Thanks very much for playing. And, maybe they can have a rematch in the Pool and Weed Eater Bowl or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, exactly. And then finally, very quickly, ACC, love what Virginia's done there, and they've built that program and they're in. Love that. But I'm rooting for the Blue Devils of Duke only because I want chaos. And I want them to come through and say, okay, wait a minute, we got to change things. It's crazy to think that we are going to some kind of matrix to decide which team out of 5 gets to go play for the championship or whatever. I want to see something on the field where it's definitive with this new world of massive schedules. It's very definitive in terms of who is going to be your team, who is going to be playing the 2 teams playing for the conference championship.
Yeah, I don't. Again, bless Duke's heart for getting to play in this game. I think Virginia wins the ball game. No, but if they lose, that doesn't help the ACC. They are really looking at possibly having nobody represent that conference in the playoff if Duke wins, because they are not as short of taking. They may take 2 non-Power 4 champions instead of the ACC champion in that mantra. So, yeah.
All right, our moment of awe is next. Then we're off to the store to buy our chips and dip.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
Time now for a moment of awe. It's a special one. It was on December 6th, 1961, when history was made. Ernie Davis winning the Heisman Trophy, the Syracuse running back, the legend, becoming the first African-American to win the Heisman. Sadly, he died about a year later, diagnosed with leukemia after he was drafted by the Cleveland Browns, and we never got a chance to see just what kind of success he would have had in the NFL. Our moment of awe going out to Ernie Davis. Hey, thanks again to our guests, Ben Garrett and Henry Oelhafen. Thanks to you. Man, let's make this a great weekend. We're going to sign off and go enjoy the games. You do the same. We'll see you on Monday on the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at SportsIQ LS. We'll see you next time.